Well, we know that Amy Grant is an award-winning artist who has had hits in Christian pop and country music, but tonight we're going to introduce you to another side of this Nashville native's personal life, her friendship with Jimmy Gentry, a World War II veteran who has been an example to her and everyone else in Franklin, Tennessee, which is just outside of Nashville.
Jimmy is the consummate Southern gentleman. He served in World War II, but he was part of the Liberation Army. And, you know, the way he describes it is, I was a foot soldier. That's all, low man on the totem pole. He was a football coach. One day when he was coaching at football practice, a man came walking through the crowd of football players, and Jimmy recognized that man's face because he had been behind the barbed wire fence. And he was one of the people that Jimmy liberated. And he said, "You've got to tell your story." Jimmy has seen firsthand the absolute worst that a human being can do to another. And he has chosen to live a life of kindness and to be helpful. And even seeing all of the pain and suffering that he saw, he didn't lose faith in the ability for people to do good to each other.
During World War II, Jimmy Gentry was a 19-year-old entryman who earned a Bronze Star in the Battle of the Bulge. But nothing could prepare him for the horrors that he saw as a liberator at the infamous Dachau concentration camp. For years, he tried to forget. But then a survivor convinced him that it was his duty to share his story with the world. Please welcome a genuine American hero, Jimmy Gentry. Jimmy, thank you for being here. Jimmy, like a lot of veterans of World War II, when you came back, you didn't talk about it a lot. You didn't tell all the things that you had seen and done. But there came a point in which somebody challenged you to tell, especially what you had seen in the liberation of Dachau.
Yes, it was an inmate that was in there, in the camp. And this has been several years after the war, and he said that people wouldn't believe it, and they keep saying it enough that it didn't happen, and then finally people would believe it didn't really happen. And so he put the pressure on me that you've got to talk and tell what you saw on April 29th, 1945, and then I began to talk about it.
Was it hard to talk about it?
Well, at first it was. There's still some places in the story. I'm happy to have my memory, but sometimes it gives me a problem. I can still talk to you right now and begin to see faces again and see situations that would cause me to maybe become emotional while we're talking.
I think it's hard for people even to understand how horrific the concentration camps were. Were you shocked when you first walked in there? Was the scope of it worse than anything you could have imagined?
Well, first, we never heard the word concentration camp. Infantry, we're walking, and the war is pretty well over by now. And we thought, well, we won't have to wait too long. And then one day we began to smell something. And it smelled so bad that we thought, well, the Germans are using some sort of special gas here to salvage the war. And then we began to find out what the smell was. I actually, with my own eyes, saw 3,700 dead, rotten human beings. And you can't believe what it smelled like. And you throw up without even seeing the people, just from the odor. And so that was our entrance into Dachau concentration camp.
Jimmy, I think to think about what people of your generation did And I've often heard people say, oh, no, we weren't the greatest generation. But I'm going to tell you something. Yes, you were. You saved the world. You, honest to God, saved the world. You and the people of your era. There's never enough to say thank you. And I just want to tell you how grateful we are, not just for your being here, but for your being willing to serve.
I appreciate what you're saying, but I also want to remind the people that, for example, in my case, my brother was killed in World War II while my mother lost 2 sons in the war, and here I am surviving. So there's so much happened during World War II.
Well, I'm grateful that you came to tell your story, and I'm happy that you're able to talk about it because we need to never, ever forget. Jimmy, thank you so very much.
You're so welcome.
Great to have you here. This audience joins me in saluting Jimmy Gentry for his service and sharing this marvelous story. It's something we all should know and never forget. Let me tell you Jimmy Gentry's memoir, special, called An American Life, and a DVD documentary available at your favorite online bookseller. I hope you'll get this remarkable man's story.